And again, Christians, get out and vote just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I love you. Get out. You got to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to vote. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian.
Welcome everyone to the Wake Up Call channel. I'm doing this video for the obvious reasons. As you just heard out of Donald Trump's own mouth, I'm no Christian. Now, I know a lot of Christians don't refer to themselves as Christians these days because they don't want to be lumped in with a lot of the lukewarm church that accepts a lot of the depravity going on in the world. But the term Christian, we all probably have used at some point in time, and we know that most people use it to describe their faith in Jesus Christ. Some of us call ourselves followers or disciples of Jesus Christ. Others call themselves Christians. And for Donald Trump to come out and say, I love you, Christians, but I'm no Christian, how much more do you actually need to hear? It's funny that he said that, and that's the old Freudian slip. So much truth in that statement. But if Donald Trump came out, because what's funny about it is I've been saying this recently, if he came out wearing a Baphomet shirt, saying that he worships Satan, most of these idol-worshiping Christians would not believe it. They would say that he's joking. If he came out and said, I am now making the mark of the beast an authoritative thing, that everybody needs the mark of the beast to be able to buy or sell, Christians would probably say what? He's probably trolling. That's the point that we've gotten to in our society, where they could literally say it out of their own mouths. He could read to you the poem 100 times about him being the snake, and these people still don't get it. And there's 2 reasons I'm still doing the work that I'm doing here on YouTube. The first reason is to wake up the dead asleep, the people out there who don't have any idea about any of this stuff, to bring them in, to start peeling the layers back so that they can go on a mass awakening. Because the years and years and years of programming we've all been put under, it takes time to peel the layers back. And that's why I start with signs and symbols and common sense. The second reason I continue to do this is because seeing Christians, our fellow brothers and sisters in Christ, get led astray, get walked off a cliff, bothers me. It bothers me. And I'm not sitting here and saying I'm a more righteous Christian than anybody else. I've never said that. I don't believe I'm a better Christian than anybody else. But I'm very good with discernment and seeing through bullcrap. And Donald Trump, I am not 99.9% sure. I'm not 99.999% sure. I am 100% sure, and have been since this started. And everybody who follows my channel or has followed it knows since he emerged on the scene as a presidential candidate, I have said he is compromised. He is an elite. He is a billionaire. He has been a part of Hollywood. He rubbed shoulders with all these people. He didn't suddenly turn on them. They needed a character that people would get behind, so much so that they would be able to manipulate these people into doing things they would never be able to manipulate them into doing. And look where we're at now, 8 years later. Look where people are defending this man who says that he loves Christians, but he's not a Christian. Yet, if he's not a Christian and a follower of Christ, who intervened? That divine intervention that he was talking about with that bullet? Why is it that we're not hearing so much about that staged assassination anymore? Because too much evidence is showing that it looks completely staged? You know, like when he says my hand was covered in blood and every single photo shows no blood on his hands. How many things can Christians ignore to this point and just really, come to the realization that you're being duped, that he's one of them? I am not a Democrat. I am not a Republican. I am a follower and lover of Christ, period. And none of us want to see any of you get duped. It's okay that you were duped and you were wrong. We've all been duped in life. I was duped. I went through school. I went through college. Total waste of time. Total waste of life. I accepted the fact that I was duped. Just like everybody out there following Trump needs to accept the fact that he is one of them. And what's coming, you heard in that speech. You heard him tell everybody out there that this is the only time you'll ever have to vote. He tells Christians, you have to vote because we'll have it fixed. Everything's going to be fixed and better in the future, and you won't have to worry about voting again. Sounds a lot like a dictatorship, but if you ask a lot of these Christians, they would sign up for a Trump dictatorship. That's how insane the psychosis has got. Now, the other thing that I'm very fearful of in regards to what's happening with Trump, and most of you know that I've been leaning towards a Democrat being placed in a Democrat being placed in as the next president. I believed it was Biden. I didn't think Kamala was even an option at that point because I didn't think anybody would believe there was any chance, but it does make somewhat of more sense. But I did believe a Democrat would be placed in. But either way, whoever they put in power is part of their plan. And it's going to move forward after the fake elections on November 5th. And the stuff with Donald Trump in Israel is what scares me more than anything. Watching Christians literally get in bed with the synagogue of Satan, not understanding that Israel became a state in 1948. It's a creation of the Rothschilds. The term Israel in the Bible does not mean this literal place that was hijacked during World War II by the Rothschilds. The same Rothschilds that everybody out there openly hates and knows about in regards to the Federal Reserve. They don't seem to understand who's controlling Israel, that it's an industrial military complex. And of course, they've been busy gaslighting Democrats to side with Palestine and conservatives to side with Israel. And all Christians are being duped and told that it's their obligation as a Christian to support Israel, but not understanding who Israel really is. And this is what scares me the most. Trump is meeting with Netanyahu. The headlines are that World War III could happen if Harris wins. Well, very well could happen if Donald Trump wins, because again, the United States would go to war side by side with Israel. And this is all scripted. When you hear about Albert Pike, I mention Albert Pike all the time. Albert Pike is the author of books like Morals and Dogma. The Freemasons and secret societies, much like Aleister Crowley, follow the teachings of Albert Pike. Albert Pike also had his hand in creating that thing known as the Ku Klux Klan that most people out there don't even understand the origins of. It's the same people involved in Freemasonry, so why don't we start shutting down all the Freemason lodges around the United States of America, around the world, let's be real, right? But nobody wants to think that far because the alt-right media gatekeeps and doesn't tell you anything about secret societies and Freemasonry because they don't want you to figure out how this is happening right now. They want you to be in the mindset of, how could all these people be in on it together? But when you actually understand secret societies and Freemasonry and what their books teach, then you'd say, oh, that's how they're all in it together. They've been networking underneath our noses for all these years, even in our own towns, because there's an Eastern Star Lodge for witches who use the upside down pentagram as their logo in your town and pretend to be Christian. And the Freemasons are in your town and they show up at your parades and pretend like they're there because they care about the community, right? Yeah, care about the community. They're there to protect their identities, to make you think that they're not what people like me say they really are. But let me tell you what people need to understand about Albert Pike, World War III, and Donald Trump. Let's start with, again, the quote from Albert Pike, because all these members of secret societies worship Lucifer. Quote, "That which we must say to the crowd is, we worship a God, but it is the God that one adores without superstition. To you, sovereign grand inspectors general, we say this, that you may repeat it to the brethren of the 32nd, 31st, and 30th degrees. The Masonic religion should be, by all of us, initiates of the high degrees maintained in the priority of the Luciferian doctrine. If Lucifer were not God, would Jesus culminate, spread false and harmful statements about him? Yes, Lucifer is God." That's what they all believe. And as you heard in that quote, the brethren of 32nd, 31st, and 30th degrees is as you grow through degrees in Freemasonry, you learn that Lucifer is the God of this world. And that's why you see all these Luciferians always doing their all-seeing eye worship. They think it's a big secret, but the secret's out. The problem is that the truth is being gatekept by the alt-right media from an actual revolution starting, because over time periods, revolutions actually have started against these same people. But everybody's too focused on putting their emotions into political heroes, the people that they're putting up as false idols, thinking that they're going to stop everything that's happening. And the only way they were able to get people to emotionally invest in these political scumbags is to make them martyrs. It's basic mind control 101, making Trump into a victim every single day, where people out there, I guess, are so dumbed down, they don't understand how mind control works and how the liberal media has deliberately been doing this with Donald Trump for the last 8 years, how they've been going after him, witch hunts, the raiding of his home, the sham trials. You don't think that they realize that the 99% of the population look at the things that they're trying to put him in jail over are ridiculous? The stuff with a porn star, the constant attacks by a very obviously biased media. You don't think that people obviously see all this stuff? I think everyone out there thinks that the liberal media is oblivious and doing this stuff obliviously. They don't seem to understand that these people have mastered mind control and they're using it on you. And you're thinking that they're so dumb that they don't know how they come across. But they do know how they come across. And what that's done is build up a martyr in your mind. So when I'm talking about Trump, who is now admitting that he's not a Christian, even though you'll see all of these people under hypnosis defend that and say he accidentally said it. He didn't mean to say it, right? I mean, what more do you need to hear him say then? I'm not a Christian. I mean, that's pretty obvious that he's not a Christian. I mean, a tree is known by its fruits. And just because you're peddling a Bible, trying to sell a Bible, and you're standing up in front of Christians saying you're Christians, I mean, how many Bible verses do we know of people who say they know God and do not? How about in Matthew chapter 24, verse 5? For many will come in my name claiming I am the Messiah. They will deceive many. How many times have we heard Trump call himself the chosen one? How many people have we heard talk about how he's a prophet, how he's the second coming of God? Christians are being duped. And the other thing, again, that I'm talking about with Israel that most Christians don't understand, and you can learn a lot about this over on the website, uprisinglives.com, is World War III and what the plan is for Christians coming out of World War III. If you don't know that, Albert Pike predicted the 3 world wars. And when I say predicted, I mean he scripted the 3 world wars because they're all scripted. There's people out there that say, wow, Albert Pike must be really smart. How did he predict the 3 world wars? The same guy who says Lucifer is God and teaches that to all of his brethren in his secret societies, well, he didn't predict them. The wars are scripted. They're plotted out. And if Trump is put in power, I believe we will shift towards World War III and Christians will be at the forefront. Here is the plot again. For World War III, according to Albert Pike, sounds a lot like what's happening today. The Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the difference caused by the agentur of the Illuminati between the political Zionists, which is Israel, and the leaders of Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam and political Zionism mutually destroy each other. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on the issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economical exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm, which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin of savagery, and of the most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere the citizens obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilization and the multitude disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal, but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out in the public view. This manifestation will result from the general reactionary movement, which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. That is a direct quote. Can you not see how we're headed towards that? Can you not see what is coming in the future? This is a scripted world war. And this hasn't even begun yet, really, when it comes to America's involvement in what we're seeing over in Israel, between Israel and Palestine, which is really just a war on civilians. But America will be dragged into it. And look how duped these Christians are into thinking that Donald Trump is some type of prophet, that he's been chosen by God. The divine intervention theme that I showed you the repetition and the pattern in many videos already. If you haven't seen them, go watch my videos on the fake Trump assassination. How many talking heads are saying it's divine intervention? It's all scripted. They're all using the same talking points because the most basic thing to understand about mind control is that the key to mind control is repetition. Okay, so they're saying this over and over and over again so that you repeat what they're saying. That's kind of how it works in school, right? You keep learning the bullcrap in school over and over and over again until you repeat it. That's how you learn it. And you're learning lies. And now what we're seeing is Donald Trump even admit that he's not a Christian, but he'll be defended to the grave for these Christians who are worshiping a false idol, who refuse to believe that they're worshiping a false idol. They are worse than the Democrats are. They become worse. The Democrats are under hypnosis as well. Both sides are. They're under hypnosis to the point where they can convince them to Bobbitize themselves. So that's pretty scary. Or these people are thinking at 5 years old, they should cut off their ding dong. I mean, that's pretty frightening. But look at the other side. You can't even get through to any of these Trumpers about, hey, you know, we're fellow Christians. I don't support Trump. They think you automatically support Biden. They think they're conspiracy theorists. They don't even understand what's going on. They don't understand it at all. They're like, oh, I know what's going on in the deep state. Oh, that's all been fed to you. Who's been feeding you the deep state narrative? The media, the Q movement, which is AI out in the open, working your mind. And they're like, I know what's going on. You don't. You're a Democrat if you don't support Trump. You're not a follower of God if you don't support Trump. Read your Bible. Out of his own mouth, he can't even admit that he's a Christian. Ladies and gentlemen, we are heading towards an insane time period to be alive. Insane. Because after the staged election, whatever way it goes, because I can see it going either way. I could see them placing the Democrat in, nobody believing the result, and then getting rid of the elections. Or I could see them putting Trump in, and then, of course, removing everything we know in this institution, right? Remember, the institutions have to be taken down. The infrastructure has to be destroyed. I could see Donald Trump playing that role and telling everybody out there that we're not voting anymore, right? Just like the Democrats, because they can make the Democrats, even though they're under complete mind control, look like they've been correct all along. Remember, the Democrats are in bed with the New World Order agenda. All this chaos, the Noahide laws, all the stuff that they're trying to push, the genders and the 50,000 genders, all the Democrats are on board with it. So I could see them telling them, hey, you were right all along, but Trump is working with them to do this. That's what people out there seem to not be able to wrap their heads around, that the news is fake. It's scripted, just like Albert Pike telling you about what the Third World War would look like. He told you what it would look like. Now, how did he know? Would he have a prophecy? The guy who worships Lucifer, he had a Luciferian prophecy? Because it's scripted, and they're following a script, just like Donald Trump's assassination, just like all of it. The news is scripted. It manipulates you. It makes you think things that aren't really true or true. It warps your perception of reality. Always remember, the news is not there to inform you of what's going on. It is there to control you. It's as simple as that. Donald Trump saying he's not Christian. I'm curious to see a lot of you in the comment section. What kind of pushback are you getting from people around you when you show them that clip? Let me guess, they're going to defend him and say he had a slip of the tongue, right? Just like when he talks about the serpent, just like when he said his hand was covered in blood and it wasn't. I mean, you could go on and on with all of them. All of these actors, these political actors who are doing nothing more than sabotaging our way of life. And the more you support them, the more of a stranglehold they're going to have over your mind in the future, especially on Remember the 5th of November. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you as always and your families.